ladies and gentlemen, pray. What we can do is give it a minute. Learn more. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, welcome everyone on this quite cold morning in Nairobi. Thank you all for being here. My name is Radha Upadhyaya. I'm a research fellow at the Institute for Development Studies and the Department of Economics and Development Studies here at University of Nairobi. I work on entrepreneurship and development issues and finance and development issues. And some of my recent papers have been on the regulation of digital credit in Kenya, the role of long-term understanding finance in employment relations. And I'm also working on a project on SACCOs and the history of SACCOs and their contemporary relevance. So those of you who are not from Kenya, maybe I can just welcome you to Nairobi and hope you're really having a really good time. I'm really biased, but I think Nairobi is one of the nicest cities to live in anywhere. So I hope you're really enjoying. So today we have a really packed session, as you'll have seen from your program. Sorry, this. Again. But to start us off, we have Dr. Ruth Oriyama, who is a governance specialist at the World Bank. She's also the Kenya chapter coordinator for the African Association for Women Economics. She's here representing Professor Elizabeth Assedu, who is an economist at Howard University. And really, if you've not read some of Professor Elizabeth's work, you should really Google her. It seems that through her, Professor Elizabeth's efforts and also through Ruth's efforts, the Kenya chapter of the African Association of Women Economics is really kind of taking off. So I'll ask Ruth to please come up and give a short welcome address.
Thank you very much, Dr. Radha, distinguished guests, colleagues, members of the African Finance and Economics Association, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. So today I stand before you with a profound honor to present an address on behalf of Professor Elizabeth Assedu, who's the president and founder of the Association for the Advancement of African Women Economists here with us. She's a professor of economics at Howard University and recipient of multiple teaching and mentorship awards, including the American Economic Association Cecilia Conrad Impactful Mentorship Award. She regrets not being able to join us in person today, and she sends the following remarks, which I will read. I'm deeply honored and I'm deeply humbled and profoundly honored to accept the recognition from the African Finance and Economics Association. There are few moments in one's career that prompt true pause, and this is certainly one for me. Not only does it represent the affirmation of my peers and colleagues, but it also compels me to reflect on the journey and transformative role education has played in my life. Growing up in Ghana and embarking on a path from mathematics and computer science at the University of Ghana to advanced studies at the University of Illinois, I experienced firsthand the power of education as an equalizer, especially for women. Education did not only provide me with knowledge and technical skills, it unlocked opportunities that would have otherwise remained out of reach. It became a passport to global experiences, from lecturing at universities in the United States to engaging as a consultant for international organization. Education has been the avenue through which I encountered remarkable mentors, men and women, who championed my aspirations and challenged me to think beyond boundaries. Their impact was most keenly felt not just in academic growth, but in the values of inclusivity, resilience, and service that they helped instill in me. The spirit of mentorship is what I have strived to carry forward throughout my career. In my professional journey as a professor, researcher, and leader, I have had the privilege to mentor, teach, and learn from hundreds of students, many of them young women who, like me, faced structural barriers. Witnessing these mentees transform their circumstances, attain graduate degrees, establish academic and professional careers, and become mentors themselves is among my most profound sources of fulfillment. The multiplier effect of women's education is well documented. When African women access education, especially in economics and policy, they not only uplift themselves, but also their families, communities, and institutions. Equipped with knowledge and voice, they shape research agendas, influence policy debates, and lead projects for development. Each time a young woman is empowered in this way, she becomes a catalyst for broader change. This honor today, as a recipient of the Afea Mentorship Award for 2025, therefore is not solely a recognition of my contributions, it is in a very real sense a tribute to the collective achievements of all those whose paths I have crossed, my mentees especially, whose courage and determination inspire me daily. It is a reminder that our greatest impact is measured not just in publications and accolades, but in how we make it possible for others, especially the most marginalized, to thrive. I dedicate this award to every African woman who dares to enter the field of economics or any space where her presence is still the exception, to every mentor committed to opening doors, and to every young person for whom education remains the surest lever to opportunity and justice. Let's remember, when we invest in the potential of all people, girls and boys, women and men, we build not just careers, but the very foundation for Africa's development and prosperity. Thank you sincerely for this tremendous honor. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an honor for me to read Professor Siedu's remarks. She sends her gratitude to you for having honored her with this year's mentorship award. And on behalf of AWI members, including the Kenya chapter, whose members are here with us, I'd like to echo our gratitude for this recognition. So the Association for the Advancement of African Women Economists, or AWI for short, is more than just an association. It is a movement founded by Professor Asiedu herself to expand those whose knowledge, voices, and ideas shapes African future. So it stands Okay, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's been an honor to read Professor Siedu's remarks on behalf of AWI, including the Kenyan chapter, whose members are here, and we extend the same gratitude to you. So AWI is not just an association, but a movement founded by Professor Siedu herself to expand those whose knowledge, voices, and ideas shape Africa's future. It stands on the principles of people and partnership. It looks to foster connections, not only among African women economists, but across disciplines, sectors, and even other countries. So if we look briefly at Africa's economic outlook for 2025, we see tremendous potential. We are looking at a GDP rise of about 4% next year, and over 20 countries are projected to surpass the 5% growth rate. But yet at AWI, we believe that resilience is not enough. We also have to address critical issues such as the rising debt burdens that constrain a lot of our African economics, also constrain investments in health and education, which are critical levers for the human capital. We have a surging youth population whose opportunities are limited in the job market, and persistent threats to climate change that demand from us novel strategies and resources. So these challenges or opportunities, if we may say, might be tackled through robust collaborations that ensure that African talent is at the table. And gender gaps persist in our economies, and women persistently remain underrepresented. Yesterday, we saw that globally, women professors contribute to just about 15 to 20% of professors in economics globally, let alone in the continent. But we know that evidence shows that when we invest in women, particularly in education and economics, we have these multiplier effects that benefits our families, our communities, and our nations. And so it is in this respect that AWI maintains its mission, which is bold and simple. We are looking to build a vibrant, well-networked community of African women economists, empowering them through mentorship, research funding, technical training, and support at every career stage. So since 2012, AWI has grown to more than 1,100 members across 67 countries, the vast majority being African women. We have partnered with institutions such as the World Bank, the think tank partnerships, and several African universities, supported nearly 900 mentors, and helped over 300 women earn their doctorates, and ensured that members living in this continent have access to grants, conferences, and publishing opportunities. But these numbers only tell part of the story. So behind every statistics, we have, for instance, a young woman in Uganda who completed her PhD while at the same time raising a family. There's a lecturer in Nigeria publishing groundbreaking work in inclusive finance, thanks to the support of AWI, and a doctoral student in Senegal who, through AWI's mentorship, was able to gain the confidence to mentor other young upcoming scholars. So then the approach of AWI is collaborative at its core, bringing together early career researchers, senior scholars, practitioners, and policymakers, where we open doors that have been traditionally closed. And it is not just for women, it is also for men, funders, institutions, such as those who are here. And we open opportunities for you to be partners and allies. So this week we join you, Afea, to contribute to the conversation on the future of work. And we appreciate the presence to sit at the table today to share some of the research that we have been contributing. So therefore, I extend a heartfelt invitation to you all to become a member. You can reach to us directly, a mentor, a funding partner, research collaborator, or simply just an advocate. So I'll close by citing Professor Sieju's remarks. May you ensure that economics is always anchored in people's lives, where knowledge is not abstract, but a pathway for opportunity, agency, and prosperity for all. Thank you, Sana. Merci à toutes et tous, et asante.
Thank you so much. I too became a member of AWI earlier this year, and I hope many of you will also join. It's my great honor to start off some of the most top speakers on specific topics. We have Hosea Kiplagat, who's going to make some opening remarks, and I'll just read his bio. Hosea Kiplagat Churut is a financial markets expert who's passionate about financial inclusion, gender equity, and policy reform. As acting head of strategy at KMRC, he develops research-driven solutions to expand affordable housing and deepen capital markets. He holds a first-class BA and MA in economics from University of Nairobi, where he's also pursuing a PhD. Kiplagat was also formerly at the Kenya Bankers Association, where we had a lot of interaction every year, particularly during the annual conference. So he brings a wealth of knowledge from practice as well, and I look forward to your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, and distinguished African scholars, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let me first thank the African Finance and Economic Association, in collaboration with the University of Nairobi Department of Economics and Development Studies, for inviting me this morning to share my thoughts on a subject that I hold very particular within the Kenyan market, and that is around market design and institutional innovations that makes affordable housing a reality. So the remarks that I'm going to share is really not about an argument around provision of housing finance as being the only solution, but to demonstrate that without affordable finance, the future of work in Africa, and more so in the Kenyan context, remains structurally constrained. So as scholars, we often see housing as a private good, but there is also a central role that government plays to ensure that the horizontal infrastructure for which affordable housing is anchored is delivered. But when you look at the African continent, the mortgage market is structurally constrained. And that is more so in the Kenyan context. Looking at the dynamics in this market, the mortgage market remains vastly underdeveloped. In the Kenyan market, we're talking about the mortgage penetration of about 2% of GDP. And that's a similar story that echoes across the continent. Other market features within this market reveals that most of the facilities are on a variable rate basis. Variable to mean that when macroeconomic conditions are changed, these also change and affordability becomes an issue. The credit risk within these markets are also quite elevated, and that compounds the affordability issues of mortgages. And we're saying that if we are to really scale uptake or rather access and uptake of affordable housing or mortgages for that matter, we need to design markets and institutions that are able to address these constraints. Mortgages are generally a long-term asset. And being a long-term asset, financial institutions and banks and circles fund it using short-term instruments, that is bank deposits. And what that means is you, on the one hand, creating a long-term asset, but the funding structure is short-term. And as a result, there is what's called a liability mismatch. The deposits are very short-term in nature, but the asset is long-term. So that mismatch creates a problem in the sense that metrics, lenders and borrowers have unequal information about the parties to the transaction. The credit information infrastructure across the continent remains also very limited. Looking at the statistics, the penetration of the credit information infrastructure remains limited, and therefore, in the process of creating these long-term instruments, the mortgages, it becomes very hard to effectively price the credit risk given the lack of information. Other constraints include, of course, the inefficiencies in the foreclosure process. And these inefficiencies add to the transaction costs, which also ultimately makes a provision of affordable finance a very problematic challenge. So to the African scholars in the room, housing finance has not really received much consideration. I think it's more or less been relegated to footnotes. It's not quite prominent. And this morning, as we sit together to have conversations around market design and institutional innovations, I think it's quite imperative on us to begin to think about the housing and its role in the labor market efficiency. We know that housing is an asset. And we also know that housing supports our investments in education, in healthcare, among others, and therefore has a multiplier effect across other